The skies above the alien planet Trinex were calm until the fireball appeared. It came fast, burning across the clouds, shaking the sky with a deep, thunderous roar. The local defense systems didn't shoot it down. It wasn't a weapon. It was a crash pod, and inside it, something alive was barely holding on. Inside the main medical center, Nurse Zairi received the emergency signal. She rushed to the landing zone, her long silver fingers gripping her scanner tight. "What is it?" she asked the med team. "Unknown life form," said the lead technician. "We believe it's a human." Zairi froze. She had heard of humans before, strong, dangerous, emotional creatures from the faraway blue planet called Earth. But she had never seen one. No one on Trinex had. Trinex was a peaceful world. War was not their way, but this human was not a threat now. He was hurt, badly. The pod doors hissed open with a cloud of steam. There, lying inside the twisted metal, was a tall male figure, covered in blood and strange armor. His skin was pale. His face was dirty. His chest rose and fell slowly. "He's alive," Zairi said softly. "Barely." They brought him into the med center at once. Zairi led the team into the healing chamber, where light scanned every part of his body. Broken ribs, deep cuts, internal bleeding, the scanner reported. Unknown organ patterns, full DNA scan required. Zairi worked fast. She cleaned the wounds, applied nanogel to his cuts, and inserted healing tubes into his arms. As she worked, she noticed how strange his body was. So warm, so firm, so unlike her own kind. Then, something even stranger happened. When she removed the lower part of his armor, she saw a swelling between his legs. At first, she thought it was a wound. But when she scanned it, her face changed. "There's no damage," she whispered. "But the heat levels are rising." The area was swollen, red, and pulsing softly. The scanner showed increased blood flow and strange muscle tension. Could this be an infection? She said to herself. She reached for a deeper scan, but the human groaned and shifted slightly. Zairi jumped back. He was reacting to her touch. She checked the readings again. No toxins, no parasite, no burn, just something unknown. The lead medic walked in. "Nurse Zairi, status?" "He's stable," she replied, "but there is something strange between his legs." The medic blinked. "Like what?" I think it's some kind of internal swelling. Maybe a body function we don't understand." The medic frowned. "Keep scanning. Report everything. Be careful." Zairi nodded and returned to the human side. His face twitched. Then slowly, his eyes opened deep green, sharp and tired. He looked at her, confused. "Where am I?" he whispered. Zairi stepped back. His voice was soft but full of pain. She answered gently, "You are safe. This is Trinex, a medical center." He blinked slowly, then groaned again. "My squad, did they make it?" "I don't know," she said quietly. His hand moved, touching his side. "I can't feel my leg. You were injured." "We are helping you heal," Zairi explained. "Do not move." But his eyes dropped to his lower body. He saw the scanner. He saw her eyes. And then something strange happened. He smirked. Zairi tilted her head. "What is it?" The human chuckled weakly. "You're scanning that part of me?" Zairi blinked. "Yes, it's swollen. I was afraid it might explode." He laughed harder, even in pain. No, it won't explode. "That's natural." "Natural?" Zairi repeated, confused. "It is not normal for your leg area to inflate." He smiled again. "It happens when a human feels something. It's not a problem. It just means, never mind." Zairi stared. At him, she had treated many species, but never had she seen a body react like this to care, or touch, or even voice. Her scanner beeped again, heat levels rising. "Please rest," she said, stepping back. I will return. She walked out of the chamber, her heart beating faster than normal. Her skin felt hot. She had only touched him to help. Right? Inside the chamber, the human lay back, eyes on the ceiling, and whispered with a tired smile. Aliens are gonna freak out when they learn what that thing does. Zeri could not sleep that night. She sat alone in the med lab, staring at the scan results from the strange human. The same file kept blinking on her screen. Area scan, unknown reaction. No infection, no injury. High stimulation. Stimulation? She had never seen that word used in a medical report before. She opened the file again. The swelling between the human's legs wasn't dangerous, according to the data. But the readings were unlike anything in Trinexian biology. It was as if the human's body was responding to something. Why would he react that way to a healing scan? She whispered. "Zyr." I touched the center of her chest, where her hearts beat faster than usual. The memory of his voice, his eyes, his smile, it made her feel off balance. She didn't like it. Or maybe she did. The med bay doors opened behind her. The head doctor entered. "You're still here?" he asked. "Zyr." I stood up quickly. "Apologies. I was reviewing the human scans," the doctor sighed. "Strange creature, isn't he?" She hesitated. "Doctor, there's something about his body. When I touched him during the scan, there was a reaction. A swelling." He said it was normal. The doctor frowned. "Normal? What part of this is normal?" Zyr showed him the scan. "This region. The muscle tension, the heat spike, the blood flow, it's like a defense mechanism, or maybe a mating reflex." The doctor pulled back. "A mating reflex?" Zyr nodded slowly. "He laughed when I mentioned it, said it was natural. I think it's linked to emotion." The doctor narrowed his eyes. "You're getting too close. Remember your role. Observe, heal, report. Do not get involved." Zyr nodded, but the words felt cold. The next morning, she entered the chamber again. The human was awake, sitting up, his eyes scanning the ceiling as if trying to remember a dream. He turned when she entered. "You came back." She ignored the warmth in his voice. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got punched by a starship," he said, trying to smile. "But better." Zyr walked over and began checking his vitals. "Your body is healing well. But I must ask again, the swelling between your legs. What is it really?" Jackson chuckled. "You're not gonna let that go, huh?" Zyr tilted her head. "It concerns me. I thought it was an injury. But now, I don't know what to call it." He looked at her amused. "All right, fine. It's called an erection. It happens when a human feels certain things." Zyr stared. "What things?" He scratched the back of his head. "Well, sometimes it's about touch. Or thoughts. Or emotions. It's a reaction to attraction." Zyr blinked. "Attraction? Like wanting to bond?" Jackson grinned. "Yeah, kind of like that. But it's also just a body thing. Doesn't always mean love or bonding. Sometimes it just happens." Zyr looked away, her cheeks glowing a faint blue. "So, when I touched you, you were not in pain?" "No," he said, leaning closer. "I was just surprised. You're different, but not in a bad way." She stepped back. "I see." She walked to the console, pretending to adjust his readings, but inside, her mind was spinning. What kind of species had a physical reaction to attraction? Was it voluntary? Could it be dangerous? She opened her internal database and typed, "Human reproductive behavior." What she found made her freeze. There were entire files blocked under cultural sensitivity warning. She bypassed them and opened one. Her eyes widened as she read, "Sexual response. Emotional triggers. Physical signals. Bonding through touch." She looked back at Jackson. He was watching her, calm but curious. "You read something, didn't you?" he asked. Zyr tried to keep her voice flat. "Yes, I was studying. I needed to understand. Jackson leaned back on the bed. Well, don't worry, it's not deadly, she frowned. But it is. Connected to bonding. He nodded. Sometimes. Sometimes not. Humans are weird like that. Ziri paused. Do all humans react like this, with strangers? He laughed. Not usually. But you're not just anyone. That made her heart skip. She quickly shut off the scanner. You need rest. But as she walked out, she heard him murmur behind her. You're not like any nurse I've met before. That night, Ziri sat in her quarters. She placed her hand over her own chest. Her body felt warm again. She opened her personal notes and wrote, Subject 117, Human Male. Body responds to emotional contact. Possible mating behavior. Risk level. Unknown. But I want to understand more. Outside, the twin moons of Tredex glowed softly, as if watching the nurse who was slowly discovering something dangerous. And maybe beautiful. The first thing Jackson asked for was socks. Not medicine. Not water. Not answers. Just socks. Ziri stared at him, confused. You want foot covers? Jackson nodded seriously. I feel weird without them, cold, exposed. She had spent the last 2 days treating his injuries, scanning every part of his alien body, learning more than she wanted about human functions. But somehow, a simple request made him feel more real. I will find some, she said quietly. As she walked away, Jackson called after her. Hey, nurse? She turned. Yes? He smiled softly. You're the first face I saw when I woke up. Just wanted to say thank you. Ziri blinked. No one had ever thanked her like that before. Later that day, Ziri returned with socks hand-stitched by the MedLab's AI fabricator, copied from the scan of his broken pair. Jackson laughed when he saw them. They actually look good, he said, sliding them on slowly. Did you design these? Ziri's voice was calm. No, I asked the machine to copy what you wore before. Well, you have good taste in socks, he said with a wink. Ziri ignored the strange flutter in her chest. That night, Jackson finally told his story. He sat up in bed, his voice low and tired, eyes staring at the dark ceiling above. We were flying over Sector 9, looking for a lost Earth beacon. No real threat expected. Just routine patrol. Then something hit us. A pulse. Bright red. It shut down everything. We fell like bricks. Ziri listened silently, her body still. Her eyes never left his face. I remember smoke, screaming, my pilot yelling my name. Then nothing. I woke up in that pod, falling through fire. Didn't even know where I was going. You landed on Trenex, Ziri said gently. Jackson looked at her. Yeah, lucky me. There was silence between them. Then he asked, do you know if anyone else survived? Ziri looked down. No other pods were found. I'm sorry. He didn't move. Didn't speak for a while. Then he whispered, I thought I was ready to die. Ziri tilted her head. But you are alive. He looked up at her with tired eyes. Yeah, but now I don't know why I'm alive. The room was quiet. The lights were dim. The scanner hummed softly in the background. Ziri opened her mouth to speak, but then stopped herself. Instead, she walked over and gently placed her hand on his wrist. Jackson looked at her. What are you doing? This is how we comfort someone, she said simply. He didn't pull away. After a long pause, he asked, Can I ask you something weird? Ziri nodded. Yes. What did you think? When you saw that swelling, Ziri froze. You mean, your reaction? He nodded, a small grin forming. Yeah, that reaction. I thought it was a medical emergency, she admitted. Like something was going to burst. He burst into soft laughter. Well, technically, never mind. Ziri tilted her head again. So, that was caused by attraction? Jackson looked at her. I think so. To me? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You were gentle, you were calm. You were the first soft thing I'd seen in days. Yeah, I think it was you." Zairi took a step back. Her heart beat faster. This wasn't just science anymore. It wasn't just healing. This was something personal. The next day, Zairi requested access to the cultural database. She searched keywords: human attraction, physical responses, mating behaviors. Most files were marked private, restricted, species sensitive. She overrode the warning and opened one. What she saw made her antennae twitch. Images, descriptions, emotions, sounds. Humans bonded through laughter, through looks, through shared pain. And sometimes through touch. Soft, slow, voluntary, powerful. Zairi closed the file. Her cheeks burned again. Then her scanner pinged. Jackson's heartbeat was rising. She rushed back to his chamber. "Are you all right?" she asked. He looked at her with a strange smile. "Yeah, just had a dream." "What kind of dream?" "The kind where the nurse isn't just a nurse." Zairi stepped back, confused. "What else would I be?" Jackson looked straight into her eyes. "Something I didn't know I needed." Zairi did something she had never done before. She watched the human sleep, not to check his healing. Not for science, but because she wanted to. His face was calm. No pain, no fear, just peace. Every now and then, his lips moved in a soft smile, as if he was dreaming about something warm. Or someone. Zairi felt strange watching him like this. She was a trained healer, logical, disciplined, professional. But nothing about this human felt logical anymore. She quietly asked herself, "What is he doing to me?" Back in her private quarters, she sat in silence. The medical reports were open on her screen, but her eyes stared past them. Her hand moved on its own, drawing lazy shapes on her table with her finger circles, lines. Then a human face, Jackson's face. She quickly erased it. "This is foolish," she whispered, but her mind didn't stop. It whispered back, "You want to understand him." The next day, Jackson was sitting up, stronger now. The bruises on his body were fading. His smile was back. So was his curiosity. "Nurse Zairi," he said as she entered, "do you guys have dates?" Zairi blinked. "Calendar dates?" He laughed. No, I mean like romantic dates. Like going out, talking, eating weird food, laughing at dumb things." Zairi paused. "That sounds inefficient." Jackson grinned. "Exactly." She tilted her head. "We bond through memory exchange and skin contact. Our connections are quiet, slow." He smirked. "Yeah, humans are not quiet. Or slow." There was a long pause. Then he leaned forward and said, "What if I asked you on a date?" Zairi stepped back, startled. "Is this part of your healing process?" "No," he said with a shrug. "Just part of being human." That night, Zairi searched the database again. This time, the word she typed was date. What she found made her stare. Humans smiled when nervous. They dressed in special clothes. They spoke awkwardly, but from the heart. They connected over meals, music, and mistakes. They liked moments that weren't perfect. Zairi read something that made her freeze. "Love is not science, it's chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos." She closed the file and whispered, "Why would anyone want that?" But her heart beat faster. Again and again, she thought of him. The next day, Jackson was waiting for her. "I wrote something," he said, holding out a crumpled page. Zairi took it carefully. "What is this?" "My words, not perfect, but honest." She began to read. "I don't know what you are, but you're the only real thing in this unreal place. You saved me. You touched me without fear, and when I look at you, I forget that I'm lost." Zairi stared at the paper. Her hands trembled slightly. "I don't understand," she whispered. "That's okay," Jackson said softly. "Maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just feel it." She looked up at him, eyes wide. For the first time, she didn't want to scan him, study him, or report him. She just wanted to stay. That night, she added a new note to her private log. Subject 117 human male. Emotional connection forming. Unknown effects on nurse behavior. Danger level, high, but risk feels worth it. And for the first time, she did not sleep alone. She stayed in his chamber, sitting quietly by his side, while the stars outside kept moving, unaware of the strange bond forming between two beings who were never meant to meet, but somehow did. The first person to notice the change wasn't Zairi, it wasn't Jackson. Either. It was the wall. More precisely, the security camera on the wall. It recorded everything inside the healing chamber. Every movement, every sound, every lingering touch between a human soldier and an alien nurse who was getting too close. 2 hours later, Zairi was called to the observation room. The head doctor stood with his back to her, watching a slow replay of last night's footage. Jackson was asleep. Zairi was sitting beside him. She wasn't healing him, she wasn't working. She was just watching him, sitting in silence, her hand resting on his. The doctor pressed pause. You stayed in his room for 7 hours, he said without turning. Why? Zairi kept her voice calm. He was recovering. I wanted to monitor his vitals. You could have used the remote scanner, the doctor replied. You didn't, you stayed. She didn't answer. The doctor finally turned around. You're not just healing him, you're bonding. Zairi said nothing. Trinexians don't bond with outsiders, especially not with unstable, emotional species like humans. Zairi looked up slowly. Maybe that's why they're alone so often, because no one tries. Back in the chamber, Jackson was sitting upright, adjusting the bandage on his ribs. Hey, he said as Zairi entered. You okay? You look tense. I was questioned, she replied. He raised an eyebrow. About me? She nodded. They say I am unprofessional, Jackson smirked. Well, we've already crossed into unusual, haven't we? Zairi walked closer. Her voice dropped. They want me removed from your case. The smile on his face vanished. What? Why? They say I'm too close. That I'm thinking like a human. Jackson was quiet for a long moment. Then he whispered, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Later that day, they met again in secret. Zairi led Jackson through a quiet garden on the east side of the facility, a place used by no one except the old AI gardeners. The air was warm. The night sky was glowing. They sat on a low stone bench. For once, there were no machines, no scans, no rules, just them. Jackson broke the silence. Back home, I always believed we were the center of everything, the strongest, smartest, loudest. And now? Zairi asked. I met you, he said simply. She turned her face slightly, hiding a small smile. Jackson looked up at the glowing blue sky. I never thought I'd feel safe on an alien world. Zairi looked at him. And I never thought I'd break the rules for a stranger. You still think I'm a stranger? She hesitated. No, you're something else now. He reached out slowly, carefully offering his hand. Zairi looked at it, then placed her hand in his. Their fingers didn't match. Their skin didn't match, but something inside them did. A soft sound came from Zairi's chest, a quiet hum. Jackson looked at her. What was that? She smiled. It means I'm at peace. Jackson smiled back. I've never had that effect on anyone before. But the moment didn't last long. A loud beep came from Zairi's wristband. She looked down. Her eyes went wide. Jackson sat up. What is it? She swallowed hard. Emergency notice. You're being deported. What? Earth Command contacted Trinex. They want you returned, immediately. He stood, shocked. But I'm still healing. They don't care, she said quietly. They say you've been compromised. That night, Ziri walked back to the chamber one last time. Jackson was packing what little he had, his armor, his files, his socks. He looked up when she entered. "So," he said, trying to sound light, "this is goodbye?" Ziri didn't speak. She just walked up to him and placed something in his hand. A small blue crystal, warm, glowing faintly. "A piece of my world," she said. "In case you forget what it felt like to be known." Jackson stared at it, his throat tight. "I won't forget." Ziri stepped back, but her hearts were racing. She wanted to say something. Anything. But the words wouldn't come. So he said them for her. "I never believed in fate, but I believe in you." Asterisk. The door to the transport ship slid shut with a hiss. Ziri stood on the other side, watching him leave, or so they thought. 10 minutes later, a silent alarm was triggered in the lower corridors of the medical station. One nurse was missing from her shift. One human was no longer on the ship. And one rule had just been broken. The most important one. No contact with a patient after removal from care. Jackson had never seen her like this. Ziri stood in the dark hallway, breathing fast, her hands shaking, not from fear, but from something stronger. Need. "I couldn't let you go," she whispered. Jackson stepped closer. "I didn't wanna leave. They warned me," she said. "Said humans are dangerous. Emotional, unstable." He nodded. "They're not wrong." Ziri looked into his eyes. "But no one has ever made me feel this alive." He reached out, touching her cheek gently. "And no one has ever made me feel this safe." They moved into a small maintenance room, quiet, hidden, forgotten by security. There was no scanner, no monitor, no rules. Just two people, from different worlds, drawn together by something they couldn't explain. Ziri looked at his hand. "Your skin is rough." "Years of war," Jackson replied. She placed her hand over his heart. "But inside, you are soft." They stood there in silence, both listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Ziri whispered, "Intranexian bonding. The final step is touch." He nodded slowly. "For us too." "But if I do this," she said, "I can't go back. I'll be removed. Maybe punished." He looked at her. "If we do this, we do it together." She took a step closer. Her fingers touched his slowly, gently. Then her forehead met his. A low hum came from her chest. Her skin glowed faint blue. Jackson felt a sudden warmth inside him, deep and peaceful. Ziri closed her eyes. "It's done," she whispered. "The bond is real." He held her tighter. "So what now?" "We hide," she said. "For now." But outside that small room, red lights were flashing. Security teams moved through the station. Orders echoed. "Locate human. Find Nurse Ziri. Unauthorized contact confirmed." Their bond wasn't just forbidden. It was illegal. Back inside, Ziri's hand rested on Jackson's chest. "You changed me," she said softly. "Before you, I followed every rule. Now I can't follow any." Jackson gave a sad smile. "Love does that. Is this love?" she asked. He leaned in, his forehead still touching hers. "Feels like it." Suddenly, the door burst open. 3 guards stood with weapons raised. "Step away from the human." One shouted, "Z-Wire, I didn't move. He's under my care." "You were dismissed." The officer barked. Ziri looked at Jackson. "Don't run." He nodded. They both raised their hands. But even as the guards approached, something had already changed. A soft glow pulsed between them. The bond wasn't just emotional anymore. It was biological, energetic, unbreakable. And the scanners recognized it. Tranexian mating signature. Active. The guards froze. One of them whispered, "It's too late. They're linked." The officer lowered his weapon. No one spoke. Ziri held Jackson's hand tightly. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The transport ship was ready, engines warm, doors open. Countdown started, but inside the holding chamber, no one moved. Not the human, not the nurse, not the guards. Everyone was watching one thing. The bond dotted glowed between their palms soft. Blue light where their skin touched. A signal, a choice. A silent revolution. The head doctor arrived seconds later, face tight, voice sharp. "This is a mistake," he snapped. "Trinexians do not bond with outsiders. Our biology, our law, our peace, none of it allows this." Zairi stood tall. "Then maybe the law is broken." The room fell silent. Jackson looked at her proud, even in pain. The head doctor turned. "To the guards. Separate them. Now." The lead guard hesitated. "Sir, the bond is real. If we pull them apart too fast, it could kill them." Zairi's hand squeezed Jackson's. He squeezed back. Outside, the ship's engines roared louder. Inside, Zairi faced the doctor one last time. "You told me humans were dangerous," she said. "And you were right, but not because they fight. Because they feel." The doctor stared at her. "You will lose your career, your home." Zairi nodded. "But I will keep something better." Jackson whispered, "You sure about this?" She looked at him. "I was never more sure of anything in my life." 10 minutes later, they walked through the launch bay, together. Hand in hand. Not escorted. Not forced. Invited. Because something changed. In the data logs. In the scanner records. In the hearts of those who watched. A Trinexian and a human had done the impossible. They didn't just bond. They proved it could happen. And once something is proven, it cannot be denied. As the ship took off, Zairi sat beside Jackson in silence. Looked at her. "So, what now?" She stared out the window, stars stretching across the sky like rivers of fire. "Now," she said, "we go where no one can tell us who we're allowed to love." Back on Trinex, the med center received one final scan result from the ship before it left orbit. The system displayed it without sound. Just one glowing message: biological merge confirmed. Cross-species pairing. Stable. Emotional link active. Status, mating bond. And beneath it, a single word that had never appeared on a Trinexian screen before: love.